Welcome to the Sierra Nova Comics Podcast, episode 15. Today we have Art with us. Is that everything making noise? I feel like I'm getting noises. But yeah, who are you and what do you do?
My name is Art Bellfield. I'm a writer, filmmaker, artist, and all-around good guy. I should have said bad guy.
Yeah, your whole Kickstarter was about. You just got funded, so that's cool.
Yeah, I just got funded for Black Villains Wanted #1. The goal was 2,500. We surpassed that, and we're 105% funded. That was a lot of stress. I see what people mean when they're like, yo, you don't want to do a Kickstarter. You don't want to do a crowdfunding. You lose hair, literally.
Yeah. We ran two. I say this on every podcast because somehow it just comes up. We ran Indiegogo when we first started out in 2017, and it was a stupid idea because we didn't have a following or anything. But Dylan's like, yeah, it's not gonna work. And I was like, yeah, you're stupid. So I'm smarter than you. And we got like $200. That didn't work out. Our goal was 15,000. Then we did a Kickstarter.
Shit.
What?
Oh, I just said, oh shit. When you said 15,000.
He might have been a little overzealous.
Yeah. I was like, oh, well, we got to do all this stuff. And I was like, oh, that's, wow. No. Then we did a Kickstarter for $10,000, even though that did kind of like, that would have been needed if like we did get that funded. Like everything that we were focusing on that Kickstarter had a purpose, but there was too many things to focus on at once. So you shouldn't do that. So you should focus on one thing on the Kickstarter. So if you're doing
objectives.
Yeah, we wanted like film production stuff.
Oh damn.
Yeah, music stuff. I was like, oh wow, okay. So we should just focus on one thing at a time. So that's what we're gonna do from now on. And that's what worked with our Kickstarter. So that brings us into the second question actually. Do you have any like tips or tricks for like new people that want to do crowdfunding?
One thing I learned from doing this Kickstarter for Black Villains Wanted #1, don't rely on your friends and family. They will be like, oh, that's cool, it's pretty, you made a comic book, whatever. But it's the same at conventions. Strangers will believe in you because they think it's cool. They have no emotional attachment to you. They're not expecting anything free, but they will support you. Fellow creators who, some will see you as competition. Others will be like, hey, if you back me, I'll back you. A lot of that goes on. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I definitely say seek out other people who are also doing crowdfunding to see if they will back yours, if you back theirs. Also, establish a fan base, a presence beyond the Facebook groups, beyond the Instagram and Twitter. Establish a real fan base who will come back and support you. And also create a mailing list. I had no mailing list. I had to make a mailing list each day as I went along, collecting email addresses to send people notifications and hope that they would back the campaign.
Earthquake.
Exactly. But that's what I learned is go beyond your friends and family to seek support.
Yeah.
Yeah, the mailing list is huge. Like that's something that I ask like everyone who's like trying to market anything. Like, do you have a mailing list? Start one. Like, period. Like, Facebook can get shut down eventually. Email is going to be around a lot longer than any social media is going to be around.
Exactly.
In one form or another. It's like someone's phone number. Yep. It's just something that people hold on to.
Yeah. I also bought Greg Pak's book on crowdfunding. And one of the things I learned from there is to create a budget. That way you know exactly what your production costs are, what your printing costs are, and your reward costs are before you even start. That way you're not asking for an amount of money that is either under or over what you need.
Yeah, 100%. When Greg was running this last one, I was like, figure out everything, and when you're all done, add 10%. I was like, just in case.
Exactly.
Like we went through each item that we were going to get, how much it cost. We assumed the highest tax rates. We then went and I think after we did all that, we then added the Kickstarter fee on the end, and then I'm like, all right, now add 10% because we've messed up somewhere.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure, like I'm sure because Greg's been kind of handling the stuff that we've been handing out, and I'm sure that even he notices that we're probably going to even fall, a little short of what we thought we were going to have, even though we went over, like we set like stretch goals, and I guarantee that some of those we're going to still be getting real close at the end.
What did y'all learn that going into your next campaign, if you do another campaign, that you won't do again?
Get locked out of Facebook.
Oh, yeah. Actually, that just happened to me again, except like it's worse than before. While I was sharing on Facebook groups and messaging people, like I wasn't spamming them. I was actually like sending people a message like, "Oh, this is like what is happening, and like you should like share or back this if you want." And then I did that so much that Facebook's like, "You're not a real person." I was like, "But I am." And they're like,
nobody cares about people that much.
and then they're like, it's like a CAPTCHA thing. They're like, "Oh, what is a traffic light?" And then you pick which traffic. No. But you're like, "You're not a robot, are you?"
Trying to explain I'm a robot. I'm not a robot.
So they blocked me from like Facebook groups then, but like wasn't like that hardcore. And now it's like I'm not allowed from November 4th to December 4th. I'm not allowed to share any posts at all. Like I can't share anything. Yeah, like I can't do shit. I was like, "Oh, I can't use your platform," basically. And there's a magazine that we're coming out with, and I need to like talk to people, but I can't because it won't let me.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
I bet one of the things I'll probably learn is that it's you shouldn't like bum rush people. You should do it slowly over time before the launch, and then do it consistently, smoothly, and not aggressively at chunks of times during the launch.
Yeah.
No, it makes sense. Because otherwise they're like, "Okay, what? You're bothering me."
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is it's hard to have fans if you only bother them when you need something from them. You got to be consistently communicating with them. Letting them know what's going on, even outside of when you're running campaigns, selling products, etc. And that's the reason for the email list. It's not to sell them stuff, although you can sell them stuff through the email list. Is to keep them informed, give them a back end, a backstage pass to what's going on, and keeping them.
Yeah.
Do you think Patreon campaigns work for comic book creators?
There's a guy
who are not artists, because I know a lot of artists do well with them, but as a writer, do you think they work well for comic book writers?
Well, there's a guy, the guy I was going to mention, Joe Vallon. We just got onto his podcast a couple weeks ago. He's a writer. Yeah, it was like a month. He is a writer, and he came out with his book Unkillable Joe, and you can like buy it somehow through his Patreon, but there's also like his comic Lilith's Cradle that's on there. So for $1, only $1, you can go on his Patreon and then sign up, and you'll be part of that like little community that he's got growing. And his podcast that is on there too. You get it earlier than Spotify or something. So
nice.
So I was thinking of like doing a Patreon, but like our website is basically Patreon. So it's like in a way. So I'm like, I don't know, like if I should even do that. Like what would I put on the Patreon that's different from our website? And I want people to go to our website at the same time. He's just like updated it like the other day too. He made it like smoother. So yeah, I don't know what I would use that for. But crowdfunding in general, like Kickstarter, I would keep using until there's like another form that I could actually make money off of. Because I definitely didn't make the money off of. I didn't like make money back from paying the artist, like, but I did make some money from like, just in general. But yeah, and then the amount that we got on Kickstarter, it was dropped because there was like a couple people that dropped like their pledges or whatever. There's one guy that lives around here, and he's like, "Oh, I need like gas money to get to work." And I was like, "You don't have $19?" And well, and he's like, "No, I'm like broke." I'm like, "You have 2 jobs, but all right, I'll refund you the $19." And he's like, "Oh wow, that was like super quick." Yeah. So I had to give him $19 back. Then there was some other guy, and then you gave us money through PayPal because for some reason something didn't work. And there's some girl, Maria, she did the same. So I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So we kind of got almost all the money back, but there was like a $30 one or something that like didn't go through. So I was like, oh, that's fine. But we still made more.
From what I heard, that's common. You know, you're gonna have backers that drop off. I don't know the percentage on average, but that's to be expected too when you're doing your calculations.
Yeah, that's part of that 10% error. Where you're kind of like, you can assume that you're gonna lose a little bit.
Yeah, because like our goal was $1,200. We got over $1,200 still, but like the amount we got at the end was 2,000 something, which was crazy.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and then the drop people brought it down a little, but that paid for the posters and everything that I got printed. So I was like, oh, and it cost a little more probably because I went with a different person, like a different printing thing than I originally was thinking, because I was looking at something wrong when I was like figuring that out. The dropshipping company for comics that we were trying to partner with, Ready Comics, we were trying to print everything through them. The comics are going to be, but there's like posters or something, and I thought I saw that on there, but I guess it's not there. It's just prints. So I was like, oh, maybe it's the same thing, but I'm not going to do that. So I went with Vistaprint for posters and stickers and the bookmark. So all that stuff came from Vistaprint, and it's just chilling over here. I have to start mailing it out after the comics are ready.
The Ready Comics.
Yeah,
Ready Comics. No, I'm laughing at Greg because I know he's half awake. He's trying to stay awake. He's like, I'm in my bed. I just want to crash.
See, it's funny because I only got like 4 hours of sleep, and then I went to the gym.
Yeah, I slept.
Oh damn!
Well, that's
like the last 2 days in a row.
Yeah, I slept.
That is crazy.
I slept like 12 hours last night, like from 7 to 7 this morning, and then I was up. But because Friday I tried to stay awake up until whenever my body's just like you need to go to sleep or I'm gonna just kill you. And I'm like, okay, I go to sleep. But what was I saying? Wow.
He's like that drunk rambling. He just
yeah.
Oh yeah. If I don't stay.
Can I ask y'all a question?
Yeah.
Okay. This is a deep, important question.
Okay.
Do y'all think the whole Comic Gate SJW thing has changed the industry for indie creators?
What's
how?
What's the Comic Gate?
Oh, so that's a thing like we're not too involved in.
Is that hashtag thing?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know much about it, so I can't like say anything about it. There's a guy that I support that's part of that, but he's not like fully part of that.
Yeah.
So that's how he got like 13,000. Well, obviously,
like he's Catholic but doesn't go to church.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, it's about gatekeepers in the comic book industry as far as publishers not allowing new creators, giving new creators a chance initially. That's what Comic-Gate started as. And then the other part is people are saying that some of these publishers are giving what they call diversity hires, whether it's somebody because of their sexuality or race or gender, jobs in the industry who wasn't even part of the industry before. So that's the whole debate about it.
Yeah, I think for indie creators, that's probably a minimal thing, because even if you do get through the door because of like a diversity hire, you're going to get weeded out anyways. And even if they keep you there, it's not like your work's getting any promotion. So it's not like the market's the market. It's going to decide what's quality. So if your stuff works, it's going to work. And I think that holding gatekeepers who basically earned the right to be gatekeepers as the one responsible for a comic not being successful is on the creator, not the gatekeepers. Like there's a book called The Third Door that talks about, like, if you want to get in someplace, like, there's always a third door. Oh, the front door's closed, the back door's closed, find a window, right? Like, so the point is that if you're trying to get your comic made, if you're passionate enough about it and you work hard enough, you can get anything done. So it's not like, and then there's alternate routes. Like one of the people I follow, Tom Bilyeu, like, he made millions of dollars in a nutritional company, then started a YouTube channel to build an audience, and now he has a company called IT Comics, and it's a new indie comic company that they do their own publishing. So
that is cool.
So like that's the thing. It's like, like there's alternate routes to get there. If it's only because you're broke that you can't do it, it's like, well, solve the broke problem. If you were able to create a comic,
solve the broke problem.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
you should put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But it's like, do you know Damon John, the Shark Tank?
Yeah.
Yeah, he has a book called The Power of Broke, and it all talks about that. It's like, if you're broke and that's an issue, use that anger, whatever you got towards becoming not broke. Figure it out.
No, that's smart, especially with crowdfunding and even just going to conventions. The direct-to-consumer market is huge.
100%.
And even if you gotta, you go to Taco Bell, you want a job, the person interviewing you is the gatekeeper. Every industry is going to have a gatekeeper, whether we like it or not. There's going to be someone there to tell you no, or that you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough. So that's any industry.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, with stuff like comic books, like, it's the people that are in the industry are large, right? But there's so many people that there's ways, like, for instance, we're becoming a digital publishing company. Like, we're gonna be publishing other people's comics, right? Like, that's part of our goal. And so, we didn't start with any money. Like, we're just doing it. We're like, a huge chunk of the stuff we're doing is free, communicating and networking. Like, that's basically what you can do. And if you're not good at that, read a book. You can go to the library. It's free. Go online at the library. It's free. You know what I mean? Like, there's like 1,000 routes to get where you need to be. Like, if something's holding you up, not only are there free ways, there's paid ways, but the free ways take a little longer. They feel a little better.
Exactly. I just released a 3-issue miniseries through Antarctic Press called Tainted Love. It was about a girl that loves dating supervillains. And I got the idea because a lot of women I met, they love dating, dirtbags, douchebags, or whatever. And so I was like, hey, let's apply that to comic books. I was like, because I was told, oh, you're boring, you're not exciting. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not robbing banks and selling drugs, but you have a set of women that love that. So that's where that idea came from. But my point is, originally I pitched this comic to Alterna, and Peter, the publisher, he wrote me this long personal email basically saying, your book is shit. He didn't say that. He said it in a nicer way. But I appreciated the fact that he took the time and wrote like a 3-page email in response to my pitch.
That's
and
really cool.
Part of me was, I felt a little upset, like, fuck you. But when I thought about it, I was like, this is just one person's opinion. And a few months later, I got to deal with Antarctic Press, and now the book has sold thousands of copies. So it's poetic justice in that.
Yeah. Yeah, like
Nice.
we're sort of a gatekeeper for people that are on our platform, but like we basically take anybody. So I get questions on Instagram or whatever all the time. Like they're like, so what kind of like genre are you looking for? I'm like, anything. And they're like, so like a sci-fi comic? I'm like, anything. We're taking anything. They're like, oh, is there like mature content? Like, okay, I'm like, that's completely fine. I don't really care.
That's part of anything. Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of.
Dude, I noticed the mature content on Indiegogo and Kickstarter makes thousands of dollars.
Oh yeah, people love that stuff.
Because sex sells.
I need some TNA comics.
It's not even just sex. It's whatever against, the man, whoever the man is in anyone's life. You know what I mean? Like it's
Becky Lynch.
Huh?
Oh, I said Becky Lynch is the man. Becky Lynch.
Wait, who is it?
Becky Lynch. She's in the WWE. She calls herself the man.
Oh shit! Wait, it's funny as shit.
Oh, wait, is that the poster that you?
Oh wow!
That's crazy.
Yeah, I got this I won this at Comic-Con a couple of years ago in New York.
Nice.
Yeah, I spun a dial or something. I don't remember what I did. I did something and I won.
Yeah, actually, comic conventions we haven't been like a vendor at yet. I kind of want to next year if it's okay. We've been to them, and if you're not dressed up, I think if you're not dressed up and actually taking part in it, and you're just walking around, it's like you're in a mall where there's like just furries. That I don't.
I've been to one of those conventions.
Yeah, they have like the one in Saratoga here. They have one like a separate
special room.
For furries. Yeah, it's like just a separate room, and I'm like, why are they all going to that room? Oh, okay.
You don't want to go in there.
Nope.
But yeah, and then
They're
the
playing
indie
board
creator, yeah, and then the indie comic creator at one of those Comic Cons, they're like pushed to the back. Like there's a guy that we met at the Albany one, and he was sitting on this little brick island in this hotel that we were at. And then there's like comic book stores that actually have like full like tables set up with like pop Funkos and stuff. I'm like, oh, but this guy's just like sitting over here and he has like an amazing comic.
Yeah, an amazing artwork, but like basically no one was stopping by. That's kind of like one of our things that we want to resolve with indie comics is that the reason that you go to the Pop Funko stand is purely quantity. There's so much stuff that it's worth your time stopping by. Like yesterday, somebody I know who has a crap ton of followers on Instagram, she was promoting this guy's account who was like her business coach, and they did this video that didn't make any sense. It was like intentionally supposed to be like, what's so awesome about this? So I go to his account, he's got 20 followers. I'm like, nope, I'm not going to spend any time trying to figure it out. There's not enough like social proof or just what's it called? Like proof by numbers, in the sense that if there was enough followers, even if they were fake, it is at least intriguing enough that I got to figure out why, right? Like curiosity. But if I go to like a comic book convention and I see a table and it's got 2 comics on it, it's not worth the amount of time I could spend at any other booth that has 300. And so by collecting a variety of comics from all of our various creators on our platform, we could potentially get a booth with, say, 30, 40 comics at it, like a variety, not fit like a number, I'm more than 40, but like 40 varieties of comics at one table. That's now worth someone's time to stop by.
That's a good way to look at that, because you want to create, the illusion of success. If they just see one book at the table, like you said earlier, they might just pass it by. But if they see 20 or 30 different books, they're like, hey, this is a serious publisher. Let me check out what they have.
Yeah, exactly. And even if it's subconsciously, that's the reason why it's like they might even enjoy the artwork. Like the only reason Greg and I stopped by that guy's booth is because we're getting into the indie comic industry. So we're intrigued by the guy who's an indie comic artist. But outside of that, like to get someone's initial interest, like that's what commercials are for. What is it? Trailers are for movies. Like half the time now they tell you the whole damn movie in the trailer because they really want you to see this movie and not the other movie that you have an option to see.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so that's the thing. It's like you have to give them a lot, and that's why what was it? The Endgame trailers, right? For Marvel, they literally made up scenes that weren't even in the movie so that they could give you more trailers, so you were more excited, even though it had nothing to do with the movie.
Nothing at all. It's that bait and switch.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that because as long as the product or service or offer at the end is of enough value that initial switch bait and switch is like, oh, that's fine. You just needed to get my attention. This is awesome, right? Like I'm fine with that. It was awesome watching trailers that it turns out they had nothing to do with the movie. And then they got extra footage of the movie I wanted to see. If anything, you gave me more, right? Like, so it's like that's kind of the whole concept with that. It's like you just need a lot. There needs to be some draw, and quantity is one of the easiest ways to do that.
Exactly. Especially they love sticking indie creators in Artist Alley. So you're competing against all these thousands of prints of Harley Quinn, Batman, whoever. So it makes it harder for you if you're the lone indie guy with a comic book versus all these prints.
Yep.
So I stopped going to Artist Alley. I'm like, no, don't put me in there. I want to be in the dealer's room, or I want a table by the door when people come in. And a lot of creators don't realize you have the option at some of these cons, especially if you become a regular at that con. They're like, no, this is where I want my table. A lot of creators don't even realize they have that power.
Well, the other thing too is like when people are buying, like you're the one putting up the money. Like don't pay for it if you don't want it. You know what I mean? Like don't like in the begin. Like the way I like to think about it is in the beginning you should be a yes man, right? You should agree to a ton of things because you don't have any opportunities, so you need to just branch out. And then after that, that's when you can start saying no. Like, no, I've been to 20 conventions or whatever. I've had, 20 Artist Alley views. Like, I don't want that one anymore, and I'm still giving you money. I want to go over here. If not, you don't get my money, right? I'd rather walk up here with a sign and a table hung around my neck so that I can hand out my stuff on the fly than be stuck someplace that it's not going to be of value to me.
Exactly. And I don't think Artist Alley is a good value for indie creators. They used to at these big cons would have a small press section, but they've done away with that. I haven't seen that in years.
It's funny. I wouldn't be surprised if that starts to come back, though, because it seems like comics are making a big move again, mostly because the people that really enjoyed comics are now hitting the age where they've got plenty of money to play with, right? And then the kids of some of those people are still interested in comics because it was just shown to them when they were younger, right? And so like when I was at New York Comic Con in 2018, there was a whole panel called "Musicians Make Comics," and it was it was a bunch of artists who like DMC, Steve Aoki, and two other artists. I have no idea who they were because they were younger. Were creating comic book companies because it was what influenced them when they were younger. So they're like, all right, this got me into music. This got me to through my career. I'm going to now create the same work for someone else.
No, I like that.
Yeah, so it's very interesting, the move that's being made. And what I'm hypothesizing is that when it comes to so I own the entire Adobe Master Collection. And so there's all these like video editors, graphic designers, even audio editors, right? And over the last 10 years, things like websites, graphic design builders and video editors have become templated things that you can pay monthly for. Like there's a thing called Render Force. You pay $10 a month and you can make an amazing video. if it was only your video, but like anyone else can, nice. Yeah, you can make an amazing video where like I can't remember who it is. My brother's does music production, and there's somebody he follows, a big name artist who he has a audio visualizer, those things that move to the beats of the song. And nice. I looked up on Render Forest, it's the very first template. It's the very first one, which means they went to this thing, paid $10 for it. Now they have access to it. They're like, audio visualizer, template, first one, put the song in it. That's all they did. And then they added their name, right? And so I think what's happening is that's already happened with graphic design and templates. It's now happening heavily with video and templates. It's happening with like Squarespace and Wix for websites and templates. And now there's companies like BeatStar that are coming out that are going to do it with music, where people are going to write really good songs over beats that thousands of other people have access to.
Oh, that's
yeah. And so I think that that's where music's going to go. And in about 10, 20, maybe even 30 years, what's going to happen is everything will be so templated that indie anything will be intriguing because it's different. And so that's where I think indie comics, indie music, indie film is all going. And that's why I think companies like the IT Comics, as well as even ours, if done correctly, can flourish in the future, because it will stand out so easily because everything will be cookie cutter. It's like, hey, we found out that DGAC sounds amazing if you just play them in this order every time and you just make a good lyric over it. So that's all we're going to do. And then you turn on the radio and it's like, is this the same song? Sounds like a different person singing it, right? But it's the same thing on loop. And I think people are going to get so, nulled by that anything new is going to be amazing, even if it's not exceptionally, appealing, in the sense that what is it? The golden ratio, that curl, that's like very visually appealing. You know what I'm talking about? Things that go outside of that might be interesting purely because we've seen this so often in these templated things.
Damn, that's deep. But I agree with you 100%, especially at a time where you have the big two, Marvel and DC. People are predicting that they're going to stop making new material and just sell their old material as graphic novels.
Well, ironically, their new material that they even have been doing, to the thing you mentioned earlier, they've been going like hard left on it, where they're intentionally making comics that, like the diversity hire thing, they're doing stuff for the sake of diversity, not for the sake of a good story. And so, for example, like, I didn't follow this, but my cousin's very deep into, like, whenever he gets interested in something, he dives deep into their background. So do you know how they're making a female Thor?
Yeah.
That's based on a relatively new comic that the artwork seems really great. I found out through my cousin that apparently it's not well received. Like, it's okay, but it's not a great story to begin with. And yet they're making a movie on it, right? So it's like, so they're basically doing this hard swing where they're like intentionally trying these new things. They're going to see that as the industry not working, and then they're going to do something totally different, which is going to leave this huge gap for new indie creators to come and fill. And as long as indie creators, this is what I say about music as well, as long as indie creators don't try to be different for the sake of being different, and they still make good artwork, they follow, like, I got a book called Creating Character Arcs, which I don't remember which author I got this from, but they said it's highly recommended because basically every story ever written that you've enjoyed is based off of a a archetypal story. Like, it's something that if you break it down to its essence, you could, and like,
that's where you go man versus nature, man versus man versus machine, those type of things.
Normal person becomes great, bad person becomes good, things like that. Like, there's these certain patterns that people enjoy because they see it in themselves. And if you try to do something weird for the sake of being weird, then you won't see it. Like, it won't be enjoyable, right? And so as long as indie creators realize that Marvel and DC are messing up right now in a very small way that's going to slowly accelerate into bad, I really think that it's going to be a very big up, like a positive gap is going to open that's going to allow for all of these unique people in the same way that, like I was saying earlier, like these beats that'll be getting put online, 1,000 people might sing a song on it, but the one good one's going to rise to the top, right? So as long as people follow what is good quality artwork, good storytelling, and good story character arcs, I think that indie creators have like a very fun window. If they start now and are building for the next 5, maybe even 10 years, there might be this amazing opportunity that happens in the future.
No, I agree 100%. And that's what excites me about indie comics, is that people have the opportunities to create these amazing stories and amazing art. But at the same time, I see so many people pivot from the original series, and it's like, oh, well, I did one issue of that, let me jump over here. And they don't give their original comic time to grow an audience and build that fan base.
Yeah, like even we're actually kind of doing that, but we're still working on the same one. So we're not getting rid of it or not even coming back to it. We're simultaneously working on it. So we released, what was it? Issue 1 of the Seer Chronicles. Due to reaching our 3rd stretch goal, we're releasing the Ink series, which is a separate series, but we're still working on the 2nd issue of the Seer Chronicles. Right, so we've already gone through. Actually, Greg, do we ever finish editing the panels for the Seer Chronicles?
Oh no,
I didn't think so. Okay. Yeah, we finished Ink, but but the whole point is that we're working on them at the same time, so we're not letting one fall to the wayside just to chase another shiny object.
Yeah, that's what we're doing in December. Actually, like we're going away from social media, like our businesses, to focus on like editing the script, so we don't have to do that like next year, so we'll have more time to do other stuff. We're gonna be editing the scripts that we already have written. We have like 2 to 3 issues of all the other solo series that we have, and then those solo series characters are going into their own graphic novel that includes this new character, but he's only in that, and that's it.
No, I like that idea. That's actually smart, because I see so many creators there on social media all day. I'm like, when are you creating?
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah, I was talking to the artist that we have that's in Ohio, and I was like, he was saying how social media like takes away some of his time. I was like, well, we were thinking, because Dylan's like business he makes money off of right now. He does marketing and all that other shit, web design, all that stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, so if you need a website.
Plug.
At some point, I really do need a website, but
yeah. So I said, oh, we were thinking of an idea of helping indie creators market on social media, so they don't have to do that. So like we take that over for them. They give us like $5-10 or whatever, and we'll do like Instagram and all that stuff that he does.
Yeah, probably more than $5 or $10, but
yeah. but yeah,
change,
so just a penny. But if we get enough of that, then the money would just go back into our business, which all the money that we get goes back into our business in some form, and we'll be able to build and grow. And that would also help the indie creators on our platform and like anyone that we help.
No, that's smart. I'm glad y'all said this, because from listening to y'all have a plan. Y'all aren't just like, hey, we're gonna rely on one comic and that's it. Y'all are like, hey, we want to create a imprint and carry other comics, because you're thinking of generating multiple streams of revenue at the end of the day. And a lot of people don't think about that. You can't just rely on this one comic book. You have to diversify, and everything that y'all are saying that y'all are planning to do, that's going to benefit not only your label, but other creators as well, and generate more sources of revenue. So I love that.
Well, like one of the things that we noticed right off the bat when looking into the indie comic industry, like when we started this like a year and a half, 2 years ago, whenever it was, basically we found out that most indie creators never make their money back on a comic. Like unless they do crowdfunding, they almost never make their money back. And the reason why is that after you've paid the, depending on how much of this work you do, you potentially could be paying a writer/editor, a stenciler, an inker, a color, and a letterer for all of that stuff, right? Then after you've already spent hundreds of dollars on that, you now have to pay to print every copy before someone ever holds it, right? And so you have to pay all this up front, and then you have to start making it back. But even if you sell all of those, you probably still haven't made your money back. You have to buy more and do that again until eventually you meet that same line. So after figuring that out, we're like, all right, how else can we do this? Well, first off, we can not print it. That'll be the first thing. Like we have been printing everything that we've been doing printing, I believe, has been either crowdfunded or basically pre-bought before we ever printed it. And so, or pre-sold, I guess, before we ever printed it, right? So there's that. But then we're like, well, we can do merchandise. What can we do for merchandise? And then we just started coming up with random stuff. Like I drink coffee in almost every podcast. And I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if I had our logo on here? So we made a coffee logo, and I still got to buy that, but it's on our website, so I can get that. And then when I'm drinking, I think it's literally on the right side because I hold it, or is it on the left side? I think it's on the left side.
Usually
it's not, because I was on Greg's left, and I typically hold it with my left hand. It's just on the right side now, just because of my weird setup at the moment. But it would be in my left side like this, and so that it would show on the front. So stupid stuff like that. But basically, we built all that out. And then even deeper than that, I realized if we build this out properly enough, we can actually create a template of everything that we've done. And when an indie creator becomes big enough that they believe they can go off on their own, I can then sell them this package. Like, here's a website with a way to have your comics on your site digitally, sell them physically and have it all handled by a drop shipping company, sell merchandise and have it handled by a drop shipping company, and have a blog and all that stuff all set up for you. And so like even after we basically, it's almost like we're trying to create a franchise and then selling the concept of the franchise rather than the franchise.
That's freaking smart. No, I love that. It's what's it called? Comic Experience. They do something similar. They don't sell all that, but I think people pay a price and they help them develop a comic book, and then they pitch it for publication. I believe through like Source Point Press. I don't know what other publishers are involved in that, but it's pretty much, hey, we'll help you, we'll groom you, we'll mentor you, we'll help you iron out the kinks for a fee and get you ready, and then boom, get you published.
Yeah, and that's, we're trying to get a huge chunk of that part to be so automated that it costs us nothing, and so we can then offer it for free. And by doing that, we can help indie creators break past the the I'm broke part, as far as to a degree. Eventually, like, you just have to pay money, but the idea is to any hurdle that shouldn't be an issue, we're trying to remove those hurdles as best we can in a way that won't cost anybody anything. Like, it'll cost us time up front, but we're hoping that like even just what was it, yesterday, the reason I only got 4 hours of sleep is I spent like, I don't know, 10 hours solving a coding thing on our website, so that when one of our comic creators on our website pointed out that when they come to our website, they try to view a comic, it tells them they have to sign in, and when they sign in, they have to go through a process that if they don't have a membership, they have to sign up for a membership, whether it's the free one or the paid one. But when they do that, it then brings them back to the homepage, and I had to spend like hours just to figure out how to create a session, track a session, go, what's the last comic they viewed? Did they just recently log in? Did they just recently register? Are they on a new page and it's not a comic? Send them back to the comic. Right? I had to figure all that out and create a program for it, and now it does it on its own automatically. But the point is that I have that forever now. That's mine. So I could sell that. I can hand that out. I can do whatever I want with it. And so that's the type of thing that by spending the time up front, and building this stuff out, like we're building value by putting work in that can hopefully either save people time, potentially make us money, whatever it is, to move our business along and help others along, is what we're trying to do.
Dude, that will work for a lot of creators. Once y'all get this packaged up and you're like, hey, we can build your website, we can build your online store. Because a lot of these indie books, like for example, I see a lot of Kickstarters. After the campaign ends, I never see the book again.
Yeah.
And if you didn't back it, you're like, okay, that looked kind of interesting. I kind of wanted that book, but you never see the book again.
Mm-hmm.
Unless that creator happens to do another Kickstarter and offers it as a reward. A lot of creators don't have websites. Cool thing about Indiegogo is after the campaign, it opens up and becomes a store for you. But a lot of people aren't just headed over to Indiegogo looking at comics, to buy. So creators having their own website where they have the storefronts, that's a necessity that a lot of people don't have. That's needed.
Damn, I just realized something. Sorry. I just thought of, just because of something you mentioned there, Greg, remind me about this. Have you ever heard of Blaze TV?
Yeah.
No.
Have you ever, do you know who like Ben Shapiro is?
Yes.
So him and a bunch of other like conservative news people, or talking people, I don't know what they're called, just people online. Talking heads, right? So a bunch of them have a system through Blaze TV where if you sign up for any one of their platforms, you get access to all the other ones.
Huh.
And I just realized that would be an incredible way to link everyone's sites together, is that instead of charging what we charge now, we could potentially charge slightly more. But if we get the same system built on several other websites, then you would get access to all of them. And they would, and because everyone's paying their fees in towards it, whatever they're getting, whatever they're getting paid, they would be getting returns on whoever goes and visits their site. Damn.
No, I like that. And it could be an offer. Like you can have your site independently, or you can link it, to the main site.
The way that they did it with the Blaze TV thing is a bunch of the people, if you buy it from them, they typically give you something physical too. So like the one that I follow is Steven Crowder. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but he offers a mug, like, and it's a really nice mug. And so the point is, it's like, say it's like $100 a year. So you get a mug, and then you get access to this huge catalog of everybody else's stuff too. So you get all of his catalog and everyone who's associated with him. And then Ben Shapiro, he does it as well, but he offers like a tumbler on it. I think it says like leftist tears on it or something, right? So he's got that that he offers, but then you also get access to all the other catalogs. And I'm like, that's brilliant, because basically that's what we could do. It's like, sign up for X number of dollars a year, have some hook or some I guess it's a hook, but just something that we can offer, like the carrot, and go, hey, you'll get this, you'll get access to all our comics as well, but you'll get this immediately, and you get access to all these other sites as well.
No, that stuff is just like Masterclass, where you can go to masterclass.com. There's film directors, actors, all kind of professionals that will teach you how to do their craft. If you apply that to comics, where you're like, hey, you get access to this person's podcast, or this person's writing tutorials, and so forth, and we'll send you a free copy of their comic. But if you pay X amount for a year, you get access to all these different creators, how-to videos, podcasts, whatever, bonus material, and we'll send you copies of all these books. That could work.
Yeah.
A
master class for comic book creators.
Oh, we're actually
Oh yeah, we're already working on that.
Yeah. Because that's what these, like this podcast right here, these type of things, this behind the scenes look at the personalities, the creative energies and stuff like that. A lot of fans would pay money for this type of stuff.
Yeah, well, the other thing too that we noticed that while we're working on stuff is that it's very easy to find indie comic creators. It's very hard to find indie comic enthusiasts. And so the people that are going to pay are, sometimes the creators support themselves, but obviously that's just a bunch of people sharing their money. And eventually you'll obviously have just paid for your own stuff if you end up supporting enough people, right?
Yeah.
And so what our objective is to build a platform where we've acquired enough comic book enthusiasts that whether or not they're interested in our comic in general, they can be interested in other people. So we do want to be a platform that helps creators. So we do want to be able to have like a master class for creators. But the objective of the platform actually like having something to offer, the main source that we're trying to target is people who are interested in indie comics. And so that's the thing or comic books in general, right? And so that's been like the toughest thing, but that's why we're trying to get the quantity. Like right now we're just under, or we've hit 50 comics on our website. And
more than that.
Well, the active ones, some of them are up there, but they don't have the comics uploaded yet. But yeah, like ones that have the comics available on there. And so basically that's kind of the thing that we're working on is like, if we hit like 1,000 comics on there, that's really good to go. Yeah, you get access to 1,000 comics for whatever it is, $10.99 a month, right? So that's something that's really valuable, and so that's what we're hoping to get to, and then we can start pushing our marketing a lot heavier. And once we do that, now we're starting to have income for creators, and by doing that, like we've now become a funnel for viewers. So even though they only like horror comics, they've come through us, which means any other horror creator can now attach themselves to that little group, even though that group is a very widely varied group. Like I've talked about the fact that a lawyer can be a comic fan and so can the janitor, right? Like it's such a wide range that really all you can do is pool them all together and then go, hey, here's a bunch of things that we have. What do you like?
That's true. So what I've been waiting for is to see a breakout character from an indie book.
Yeah, like a what the hell? Damn it! It was something Dark Horse ended up publishing, but it was some comic that became really big before they got it, and then they made a movie out of it. Damn it!
No.
What?
No, it's not Spawn.
Not Spawn.
Hellboy.
Oh, it might have been Hellboy. That might be the one.
Oh, here, what's Hellboy?
Yeah, where like he was, like it was an indie comic that ended up getting picked up by Dark Horse because it gained so much traction on its own, and then it became like a movie, and they made another movie or a TV show or something recently on it, right?
Yeah, they made some original movies, and then this year they came out with a new one. So that's 3 movies. That's success to me.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the thing. It's like, but that's an outlier, and we're hoping that basically what we can do is pool together so many people that it just they will be outliers, because obviously if we get 1,000 creators, not every one of them is the Brett Favre or the Tom Brady, and but like they're not going to be the best of all of them. You need to find the best ones, but we're hoping to be the source that can help that, like, because Dark Horse can find those comics, or Image Comics, or what is it, IDW Productions. Like they can find them after they've already made a name for themselves. We want to be the ones that help them get a name and continue to support them.
Yeah,
like it'd be great to be like, this is a Sierra Nova Comics production. No,
I equate a lot of this to independent record labels and people finding a band or a singer and grooming them like 21 Pilots before, they signed their big major record label, and now they're huge. And you have a lot of that. I want to see more of that happen with the indie comic creators. Malcolm Gladwell, you touched on one of his books.
Was it Outliers?
Yeah. Have you read The Tipping Point?
I have not read The Tipping Point yet, but I do also have that. Although I don't know.
The Tipping Point is basically about why things become popular. And you need those innovators. And in 2019, you need the social media influencers to make something popular.
Yeah,
Like Kylie Jenner, she got paid $50,000 for that Fire Festival thing just to make one post. Oh, I haven't read that yet.
This one right here, I believe, is the concept of the tipping point, but it focuses purely on the how, not just the concept of it. And it talks about the fact that basically you have the early adopters, or what is it? The people that basically buy anything. Then there's like the early adopters. Then there's this point where the early adopters have to get the accepting majority, because there's like the accepting majority, the non-accepting majority, then the late people that like end up they're still using VHS kind of thing. And but yeah, like that's the whole concept of this book is trying to get people, like you have to get you obviously have to get those newbie people. Like Apple got those people that get in line. Those are like the people that are always buying them the second the new one's out. You need those people, and then you need them to tell enough people that it becomes mainstream.
Yeah,
and that's that little break
point. You need
point.
those influencers. Like I say, if you get a big YouTuber like Philip DeFranco, to wear the Sierra Nova T-shirt that you're wearing right now.
Yeah, he puts the signs out there.
Yeah, a lot of people are going to go out and buy that T-shirt. They're going to go and buy the comics in return because, hey, Philip DeFranco has millions of followers.
He's giving it a thumbs up.
Yeah, he's giving it a thumbs up. And so people, they're followers. A lot of people are followers by nature. That's why they lean on religion or politics. And they need somebody to say, hey, this is cool. Thumbs up. I'm co-signing it. Go buy it. And they will buy it. That's why social media influencers get so much money for paid sponsorships.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's funny. Like, if I had more money, I'd be buying so much of the stuff that Philly D promotes just because, like, it is good stuff. And it's just like, damn, if I wasn't broke as fuck, I'd be buying all that stuff.
Well, hello, you beautiful bastards.
Yeah, exactly. I was just watching it last night. So, yeah, no, I watch Philly D, like, every day. But, yeah, exactly. Like, that'd be great to get that type of support. But I think that the best way to do it is, do you know who Gary Vaynerchuk is?
No.
So definitely I recommend, if you want to get better at social media, follow Gary Vaynerchuk. He basically tells you everything, how to do it for free. There are 3 specific tactics that you can look these up if you don't want to just watch all of his content. But essentially, there's the $1.80 principle, which means you should spend $1.80 online on every platform, where you go to, for Instagram specifically is where he made this up. You find a hashtag that you want to be known for. You go to the top 9 posts and you leave your 2 cents on it. And you do that for 10 hashtags. So 10 times 9 times 2 cents is $1.80, right? And so basically that's how you become part of the community, and that's the first way to grow. The next one is I think he calls it the content model, or the 86 slide content model. And the whole point is that you create these pillar content. So like this podcast for us is considered pillar content. It's a long form content. There's a lot of stuff that we can chop out of this later into smaller micro content. So basically, we take this content, it goes onto YouTube and it goes onto all the podcast platforms. Later, we can either do it ourselves, although I'm not gonna. We could pay somebody to transcribe them, and now we have a blog, right?
Yep.
Now we have written content. We can then take snippets of that blog, and now we've got Twitter posts. We can then take snippets of the video, and now we have Instagram posts. We can then take longer video clips, upload it to LinkedIn, Facebook, even YouTube clips kind of style, IGTV, right? We could take GIFs or like funny small moments, turn them into TikTok videos, GIFs for Twitter, things like that. And then basically you just keep breaking it down. So that's the content model. And then the most recent one I actually have not gone through because he just released it on his birthday on the 14th. So happy birthday, Gary. But basically it's how to make 64 pieces of content in a day, every day.
I read it.
You've read it? Yeah, I still got to read that. So the whole point is that like, it's how to make massive amounts of content so that you are found organically, right? And so like
I noticed Complex does that a lot, and BuzzFeed does that a lot. They'll take, like you said, this video, They'll take one subject. Oh, they're talking about cheese, and they'll make a little separate video where we're just talking about cheese.
Yep.
For whatever reason, we would be talking about cheese. But
yeah, even if whether it's humor. So basically, the two things that work the best on every platform are educate or entertain. If you can do one of those two things, you will provide value in some sort on a platform. And that's all you need to know. Like
people have short attention spans, so they'll watch a little 5-minute clip before they watch a 1-hour video.
See, that's the funny thing, though. Gary Vee has been killing it with long-form content. Like, I watch every one of his hour-long keynote speeches, and I get a gem away from that. Like, I know that LinkedIn is in the same phase as Facebook was in 2009, where it's about to start growing because do you know who owns LinkedIn?
No.
Microsoft.
See, I've never paid I don't even know how I got signed up to that.
Yeah, so that's the thing is that LinkedIn right now is Microsoft, YouTube is Google, and Instagram is Facebook. And those three companies are trying to compete for your attention. Facebook has had it for so long that they've kind of been solidified in there. They're going to slowly start costing more and be worth less to you. YouTube has been is probably at its peak. It's probably very valuable right now. It's still worth getting into. It's going to slowly decline in value, but still worth getting into. And again, same with Facebook. It's just that they're at different lines in the curve. But LinkedIn is still on its way up. It has not reached its peak organic reach. So when Facebook first came out with pages, if someone followed you, they saw your content. Now there are so many pages, so many friends, so many users that it is impossible to show them everyone's content. So they came up with this algorithm called EdgeRank that shows your content to anywhere between 3 to 5% of your audience, and that was back in 2014. Now it's closer to 1 to 3%, right?
Exactly.
So if you have 1,000 people, there's only 10 to 30 people seeing your stuff, unless it's entertaining or educational in such a way that those people engage with it, and then Facebook will automatically start sharing that to more people because their goal is to keep people on the platform. And if your content's doing it, they're going to share it. So literally, like, Facebook ads become cheaper the better your content is. So that if you make really good content that keeps people on their platform, you will actually get further reach for less cost.
I like that.
Yeah, and it's brilliant. It works perfectly. Where like Google ads, you pay per click. It doesn't matter. They're sending you someplace else anyways. They don't care if they stay on the platform because of it, right? They care that they're using Google, but outside of that, they don't care, right? And so that's the thing. It's like, so you, by learning how the platforms work and using the platforms the way they want you to use them, you can grow really fast. So like, for example, TikTok is in the stage that Instagram was, like right after they added stories, where they started exploding because they started competing with what's it called? Snapchat. Thank you. And so they're on like this upward bound burst right now. And so you can get like 1 million followers accidentally if you do the right things, right? Like and so one of the easiest things to do is post every day on there. And they can be like 15-second clips. They can be entertaining or educational. And so you do one of those two things. And then this one, actually, I was just watching a video last night about this. The more you use the new tools that platform offers, the more likely your stuff will get pushed organically because they want to test their new features.
Yeah.
So if I'm using Instagram and they just had like, do you use Instagram?
Yeah.
So do you like when they have do you follow Instagram on Instagram?
No.
So if you do, they will tell you when new features come out. And if you watch their stories when they come out and you see a new feature, start using it immediately. If you start using it, they're going to naturally push that because they want to see if it's good. If by pushing it, people stay, then they get what they wanted. And you're getting what you want out of it regardless because more people are seeing you. Even if it's not working quite the way you want it to, you're still being seen by more people. And so it's like it's a very cool point right now with all those platforms. I don't know how we tangented off on this. I was like, I had like a 3-hour conversation about this yesterday.
No, I'm just absorbing the knowledge. This is good because you're taking a tech approach to comics from the back end without devaluing the creative end of things. That's smart. That hasn't been done.
Yeah, well,
so that's people talk about disrupting the industry. Everything you're talking about, because a lot of people, they get into comics as a creator, as a fan. Oh, I'm a fan of this. Nothing wrong with that, but they don't understand. They're not business people, and they're not looking at it as. And this is the reason why a lot of comic book shops close. They're not approaching it from that business aspect of, hey, this is an investment of time, money, and talent.
Yeah, this book right here, if you ever want to have a successful business, I 100% recommend reading this book. I would say it's an almost requirement to have a long-term successful business. It's called The E-Myth Revisited, and the entire concept is a small business when it opens. I think it's something like 70% fail in the first year, and 80% of the remaining fail in the next 5 years.
That's true.
However, a franchise within the same 5 years, 95% of them are still open. Now, the reason for that is that the way a franchise is built is that it's replicatable because everything has been systematized. So Greg knows this. Every time Greg comes across a problem and I walk him through it, I go create a work instruction. That way there's never that problem again. In fact, in the future, I'm going to take those work instructions and write software to them and go, okay, now when you have a problem, click a button.
I like this. And one thing I've noticed, you throughout this conversation, you said the same thing. You know, hey, we're going to package this so we can duplicate it.
Yep, those work instructions are super helpful. Like, for example, I had Greg for our last campaign follow these steps. It was in another book. Where the hell is it? Oh, right next to it. Yeah,
I got a book for it all.
Yeah. This one's the $100 Startup. Incredible book. For indie creators, this would probably be one of the most helpful books out there because it's how to like
just our blog.
I'm gonna look for it.
Or just read our blog. But basically, on this guy's website, 100startup.com, there's 6 resources that I've used. I don't know. I've used it personally 4 times. In the sense that once I explain what it is, it'll make sense. But I've shared it with anyone I ever know who's starting a business. There are 6 resources on there on the resource page. One of them is like, what the hell is it called? The 1-page business plan. Most people never write a business plan because they think they have to write a 40-page thing they're going to show an investor one day. That's nonsense. You need a plan. Without a plan, you're just going to fail, right? But you also shouldn't spend your entire time planning because then you're never doing, right? So honestly, I don't remember who I heard this from recently, but the objective, when you come up with a cool idea, take action immediately. Once you've got a little ball rolling, stop and make a plan and then do it again, right? And just keep doing that back and forth and perfect your plan and keep taking action. And that's the best way to do anything you ever want to accomplish ever, right? Even if it's become jacked, right? Just go to the gym because your plan ain't going to do crap if you're not showing up to the gym. So start by going to the gym. Even if you literally don't lift a weight or, touch a treadmill, get to the physical gym.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so that's like, the step one. And then the other one was because like I said, there's 6 different resources on there, but the one that I had Greg use was the 39-step launch plan to launch a product. Now, even though we're running a Kickstarter campaign, this I knew that this would still be effective because I've read through it all before. So I told Greg, follow everything in here that you can that's applicable to us. And if it's not applicable, see if you can come up with an alternative. And if not, it's okay to scrap it. There's 39 steps. I'm sure some of these are going to stick. So he went through and he did that for this campaign, and we got almost double what we asked for, right? So clearly it's effective. And all he did was follow a checklist, right? And so now I was like, all right, Greg, now that you've gone through that and you know what you did compared to what was written, write your own checklist. And now we have comic book creator, Kickstarter launch checklist.
I like this. You're establishing the proof of concept by showing, hey, we've followed this checklist. We've already identified what works, what doesn't work as far as a comic book creation applied to a Kickstarter. And now we can sell this to someone else, or even test it out with 2 or 3 other people, and like, yeah, this is our proof of concept. We've tested it out with multiple campaigns. This really does work. It's not just a one and done concept. That's brilliant.
Yeah. Well, that's the biggest thing too. If you're gonna do something, it's funny too, because I've heard two different sayings, but I like both of them. One of them, like, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing well, right? You've heard that one. So that's kind of like what we're doing now, is like we're making sure that what we're doing is being effective. However, we're also not letting us hold that up, because there's another quote that's, if it's worth doing, it's also worth doing badly, because it's worth doing, period. And if you can't do it well, just do it, right? So we didn't go through the 39-step launch plan, make sure it was perfect, figure out what was in there, write up our steps, and then go back and test it. We just did it, right? And then we worked on it, right? So that's the other thing too, is like, you should try to be as good as you can be, but don't let that ever hold you up from doing something. Can't tell.
Where'd my video go? Okay. I was like, where'd my video go?
Yeah.
Okay, so my question is, at some point, are y'all gonna put all of this knowledge in a book format?
Actually, there's a joke that we had when he was living in New York, and we used to get these microwavable Chinese dinner things from like a grocery store that's by his apartment.
By the way, Greg, I'll let you know I saved one. Yeah.
So, yep,
Where is it?
that's what it was.
Yeah, General Tso meal for 2, even though we both definitely ate our own meal for 2. It's $4.99, so it's $5, and essentially, the way that we cooked it was in my microwave, where if you do 5 minutes at power 5, and we did that so often, I was like, it'd be great if we just wrote a book about the story from beginning to end of us creating all this, and we just called it 5 for 5. Like, it had nothing to do with the story. It was just the fact that it was something that we did that, basically, I try to be hyper productive. I'm ADHD, so that doesn't always work. But the point is that if I can be hyper productive when I'm in my conscious mind and not ADHDing somewhere, then I can make the most of my, flow time, right? And so what I do is, like, I always try to save time. So if I have to go to the grocery store because I don't already have food at home, I will then buy a meal so that I can just microwave it when I get home and save that time. So that's how it started, just grabbing one meal, right? So then just doing stuff like that. So that's essentially that same concept of how I save time for that is how I save time for the company, which is coming up with the idea for having a catalog of work instructions, a catalog of systems that we have created. And so essentially by being hyper productive that whole time, we are accidentally creating all of the stuff we will need to eventually create a book. And Greg is now writing the start. I think he recently started the actual story to that, where there'll be information in it, but it's also going to be in a story format, because
I like that.
books, like there's a book called The Power of Habit. Regardless of the concept of the book, the way that it's written, I remember the entire book, because 50% of the book is a story and 50% of the book is straight knowledge, and it alternates back and forth throughout the whole book.
I like that you have a book for everything.
It's kind of helpful, because I have a lot of random knowledge because I read a lot, and so it's helpful to be able to physically go, this idea, and now it's one thing. I don't have to have like this random floating thought in my head.
No, I like that, because you never know when you can apply that knowledge.
Oh, 100%. That's why I read physical books. It's not just a trophy shelf, although it does help because I like that. But it's the fact that it gives me a physical reminder. Like, just recently, actually, I don't even know if I told Greg this, I reorganized the books that I've read so that they're not in the order that I read them, because I used to be able to do that. Like, I got so caught up in the books for a while that I could tell you, like, how many books ago I read a certain book, and I could spell out the author's Even if it's like some weird Russian name, I could spell it out. And I could be like, okay, and the idea I want is in chapter 8 and open to it. Like really weird, right? So I got like super into it, but then I started getting so deep into it that I started losing that. It wasn't as of value anymore. So now I started clumping them into ideas. So like these are sales and marketing books, business and leadership books, self-development books, relationship books, it was a self-development, psychology, philosophy, relationship. And so like I started like separating the books out like that. And now I have these clumps of ideas, and I found out that's even more helpful because essentially I can take 3 ideas and go, oh, use these ideas, right? And I can literally like grab a section.
I'm mad because I'm like, we all need a Dylan on our team.
Well, complete tangent, but my brother, who's like I said earlier, is doing music production. That I'm the Dylan on his team because he spent all his time getting really good at music and has no idea about business. So instead, he's grabbing me, and I'm basically he came up with a small idea, and I'm like, oh, but you could do this with it. And then now because he's heard that, he's like, oh, actually, this is how other people do it. We should do it like this. I'm like, oh, there's a background where there's already a system built out. Perfect. I'll take this. And then what we're going to do is branch it off over here. And then it's like, oh, yeah. And if we do that, we can grab these people. And so now we have like a team of like 6 different people we're going to be working with to build this, music empire. Right. And so it's like cool that I can then take those concepts, bring them back to the comic book company that I'm working on. And ironically, the concepts we came up in the comic book company are what I'm using in the music one.
No, I like that. See, when I came to Antarctic Press, they've been in business 35, 36 years. I was naive. I was thinking that, hey, they've been in business. They would have dedicated blogs, reviewers, social influencers, all that to take care of all their promotion and marketing. I was naive thinking that all those things would be in place. But when I got in there and my books came out, even before they came out, I realized none of those things were in place. And so my book suffered sales-wise. And so I realized, yeah, when you publish with someone, the creator's going to have to do their share of promotion. But I was assuming that the company would do a bunch of promoting and marketing. But I learned differently. So I've learned, that just because a company's been around for a while, they don't necessarily have these tools in place
or the people
in place, to make those things happen.
I was about to say, it's not even just having the tools. It's some of them don't even think they need them, or they don't understand them, or so there's a book called The 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing. It's a super small read. I highly recommend checking this out if you're trying to sell anything. If you were trying to start your own business, before you even started, I would read this because this might even help you change your mind on what type of business you want to create. But basically, I've read this probably 2-3 times, and there are major corporations that don't follow. Like, this is the 22 immutable, unchanging, forever the same laws of marketing, right? And yet there are big corporations that don't follow these rules, these laws, and I watched them fail in live time. It's hilarious. This book was written forever ago, and it talks about certain companies that followed them and certain ones that didn't. And some of the companies it references are either closed or like doing terrible now. And they were referenced as bad examples. Like, it was like literally like it's proving itself. And it talks about the law of category, the law of duality. So for example, can you name 3 colas, right? Three cola products, right? Coca-Cola.
Is that the story about the guy who I believe was Dr. Pepper? And for a year, he was like, we're not going to do any marketing and promotion. And they lost like $80 million.
No, that is pretty funny. But no, I mean, like the fact that you can name Coca-Cola and Pepsi, now name another company that makes cola.
RC Cola.
Yeah, know that one, Greg. Shut up.
Wait, but who owns RC?
It's RC. They're actually their own. They're actually their own company. But if you look at how much money they make, it goes Coca-Cola, Pepsi, RC Cola. even though they make a ton of money just because the industry happens to be huge, it's so much less because the law of duality shows there's going to be a leader, there's going to be a second place guy, and then it's going to dip, right? And then there's like the law of categories, right? So you should find a category you're in and stick to it and be that category. So for example, and that's the one that, you know, Tim Ferriss is.
No, I'm not familiar with him.
So Tim Ferriss is huge in the business / self-help. He's written 5 best-selling books, and 4 of them are this large or bigger. You see this thing?
Oh, damn.
One's that, yeah, big ass book. Yeah, so 4 of them are that size or bigger, and then the first one was the 4-hour work week. But he talks about the law of category, which is the second law in this book, and it talks about like. So, do you ever heard of the name Lindenberg?
Yes.
Yeah, he's the first person to I think fly across the Atlantic Ocean solo by himself. Do you know who Bert Hinkler is?
No.
Sounds like a made-up name, right? That's the second guy that flew across the Atlantic, and he did it faster with less resources. Now, do you know who Amelia Earhart is?
So do you think?
Oh, is the last one? Do you know who Amelia Earhart is?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, she's the third person, but she's the first woman to do it. And so she selected a category, and that's why she's remembered. And so that's the whole concept right there. Is too many people try to compete with someone on their level. If they've already established themselves, you're not going to beat them, right?
Nope.
Like Kleenex is Kleenex. Like, isn't it facial tissue? No, everyone calls it Kleenex, right? In the future, when you're using, Alexa to order Kleenex, that's how you're going to say it, right? And so they're going to win. And so yeah, the big thing with that is, get in there. Yeah, the big thing with that is that if you're trying to, grow your business, grow your comic, right? For example, don't try to beat Marvel. Don't try to beat Spawn, like a specific comic, right? Like, don't try to beat anything. Be your own thing and build it out. Now, again, you have to follow those rules, like the golden ratio stuff, like the story arc stuff. It has to be appealing, but don't sway so far from what works just to be unique. Just do it enough so that do it enough so that you're unique, but not for the sake of uniqueness, for the sake of the category, right?
I like that. Yeah. So my question for you is, do you think, and this is not just comics, any company, and this is what I was getting at, you can work for a company, I say 10, 20 years, and you get so used to the way the company does things that it just closes your mind off to new ideas and new approaches to doing that same business. Because you're like, well, it's worked for us this long.
Yeah, 100%. I worked as a mechanical engineer and electrical engineer for 4 years. And when I got there, in the first year, I figured out 3 problems that would save the company 6 to 7 figures over a year to a 5-year time period. And I was basically told, no, that's not how we do things.
Dude, that happens so many times. Or you might be the guy that's sweeping up the floors, but since you're not an executive, your opinion don't matter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I see that happen a lot. Just because you're not in that conference room, your opinion don't matter. You're the new guy. What do you know?
Yep, I got permission from the GM one time, and then my boss told me no. Literally, like that's the type of shit that I dealt with. So I fully am aware that people can get their mind closed because they see the industry one way, and that's why I think that the indie comic industry and entertainment in general is going to take the big creators are going to take big dives, opening huge windows for the indie creators or just the new people. Indie, honestly, to me, just means new until it's no longer indie, right? Exactly. So the whole point is that there's this huge opportunity that will be coming because the old wave isn't adjusting. And the only way they are adjusting, like we were talking about earlier, ironically, is kind of the SJW stuff where they're like, they hear these 10 people shouting super loud, so they're assuming that they're correct. Like, did you see the Dave Chappelle stand-up that came out a couple months ago? The new one?
Yes.
Yeah, amazing. One of the best stand-ups I've ever seen, and one of his best stand-ups. And yet, all of the critics gave it like a 0 on Rotten Tomatoes, and it had a 99% by the audience. But what's funny? Disney, when they go to make their next movie, reads the critics and they ignore the audience.
And that's why they're
that's why they make movies that don't make sense sometimes. Right now, Disney's been around long enough that they have such a powerful name and they have such resources that they can make their movies good anyways. But good won't cut it when you have creators that eventually get these templates. Like I said, Squarespace Wix, all of a sudden you have a magically amazing website. RenderForce, you have a magically amazing video. Once that stuff becomes readily available to the populace, it's not going to matter that Disney has resources if they can't compete with the story anymore, or if they can't compete with the character arc anymore, right? And so like that's why it's going to be amazing to see what happens. Like if you wanted to be an artist years ago, you had to not only, teach yourself and become really well off, you had to go to school for it, and then you had to network and know somebody. Now you can draw it in your basement, put it on Instagram, and become famous. Some dude I follow on Instagram, I started following him, I don't know, 4 months ago because I saw one video. It was amazing. I'm like, that's really cool. He takes these like peanut shells and makes a figurine out of it.
Oh, cool.
He got so many followers that one random follower took his art, submitted it to the Guinness Book of World Records, and now he's in there. They mailed him something. And he's like, I didn't even know I applied for this. And some random fan did it for him. Like he's huge now. And it's so funny because all he did was make artwork and put it on social media.
Yep. I see it all the time. Yeah, but my phone is about to die.
Oh,
no. No, I didn't want y'all to be like, what happened to him?
Yeah. Oh, man, we didn't even go through any of these questions. That's awesome. See, I like that, though. The free-form ones are way better.
Yeah.
No, I like having conversations versus just, so what is your favorite color?
What is your favorite color?
It is blue. Royal blue.
Everyone's is blue.
Because then it's like an awkward first date where you're just like...
That's what
it's weird, but I like actual
podcast.
Conversations where, the conversation just goes wherever it goes and a lot of information is just given freely.
Yeah. No, I love that stuff. That's what I do basically every time I meet new people. I just have weird long conversations about randomness.
No, but thank y'all for having me on here. If y'all want me back, just let me know. I'll come back.
Definitely. And before we let you go, like I want to cut the podcast, but then I wanted to say something before we let you go. So for Greg, thank you for everyone that's joined us for the podcast. I hope you learned something new since I know we tangented off into a bunch of different topics. And we'll see you next time. Cool. So he's cut the podcast. But I was going to say, you said you needed a website. If you wanted to build one yourself rapidly, you could do it for what the hell? Like you could spend what is it, $15 for a domain name for the year, and as cheap as like $6 a month for hosting, like to where you've put the physical website, and then you upload a WordPress plugin through the back end. So like I would just go to GoDaddy, call them and say, I want a domain and a host. They're going to try to sell you a bunch of other stuff. They're going to be very convincing. I promise you don't need it. I had a client spend $300 one time because they thought they needed something. But you can just go, I want this domain name. I want the most basic hosting that has cPanel access. And honestly, maybe I think it's like $6.99. I think that's what you can get for hosting. So it's like the deluxe something, I think it's called. And then you just throw up a WordPress. You go into the cPanel, you download a WordPress installer, and now you have a basic WordPress site. And then you can upload free themes and do whatever you want with it to get a website up there that's not Square or Wixbase, which costs like $35 a month and has terrible SEO. I love Philip DeFranco, but I hate that. It's like Squarespace. I'm like, no, Squarespace sucks. Like specifically for somebody who's trying to save money, like unless you're already selling a product, $35 a month for Shopify and another $10 a month for their host, like it's not worth it.
Yeah, it gets expensive.
Yeah, unless you also buy their SEO package for another $30 a month or whatever the hell it is. It's like
I'm gonna definitely check that out.
Yeah, I'll have to like create a blog or something, or have Greg write a blog after I tell him how to do it.
Greg's like, more work, thank you.
Yeah, just because it's something that like every creator should have their own website, and it's not that hard to set up. To have it customized, like, you know, obviously if you want like a really amazing website in the future, feel free to call me. I love building websites. You know, it's the thing. It's also the thing that happens to pay for most things because that's the most work I get. But basically, you don't need that to get started, and you absolutely should own your domain name. Like, if you haven't already bought it yet, be terrified someone might have gotten it and go get it now. Like, that's like, you never know. Someone could hear you talk about it one time and buy it just to be a dick, right?
Yep.
And so, you know, or like for me, for example, like my other company is Artistic Development and Design. That's my marketing company. And I wanted to get ADD.com. Impossible. You can't get a 3-letter URL domain name. I found the guy who owns it. He was selling it for $1 million. I offered him $10,000 and he would not take it. Right?
So he's just holding on to it.
Yeah, he's holding on to it. He wants someone to pay him $1 million. I'm like, buddy, I'm gonna I would have paid $10,000 because that would have been an insane domain name to have. Right? It's so easy. ADD.com. Boom. Right? I think he actually ended up selling it to an actual ADD company, like an ADHD thing. So I wanted to get that, and I couldn't get it for the $10,000. I think he actually contacted me and tried to offer me $100,000. I'm like, buddy, no, like, not now. And then another company that's in California, they're actually closed. They've been closed. I know that because I went on Google, and their building has been under construction for 5 years. There's no logo on the building. There's no active social media, and they're a marketing company, and they're literally called ADD Marketing. But they're ADD Marketing in the sense of literally being ADD, and mine was just a joke off of Artistic Development and Design. And so they've been out of business for years. I looked up their domain name. I found out when it was going to expire, and I was going to buy it because it's ADD Marketing. I'm like, that's perfect. That still works for me. And they have a fucking auto buy on there, so it's bought for another $5. Right? So that's the whole point. So that's why you want to grab those domain names, because you never know. You don't need the .org and all that unless you're going to be this, you know, unless you're going to be Disney eventually, you know what I mean? But you want the .com of whatever your domain is. You want it to match, hopefully match your what's it called? Handle, like your social media. Like my website is artdevdesign.com. My social media handles are artdevdesign. Like, they're all the same. And so you want to keep that stuff the same, but definitely buy that. Like I said, it's like $15 for the year, unless you have a really good name. Like, if the name was like Steel Rock, like, those are two very common words. So that might be worth $30 to potentially $1,000, depending on how desirable it is. But if your name is a unique business name, you just buy it. It'll be $15.
Oh, hey, I'm definitely gonna check that out today.
Yeah. So I would definitely do that. And then, like I said, the only other thing you need is hosting. Is as long as it's done through the basic hosting on GoDaddy, it will come with an installer for WordPress. You install it to the domain, and then now you have a website. And then you can start messing with it. It'll be very basic. You can find free templates online. You can Google how to upload them. Literally, like, what I sell is time when I build websites. Like, it takes a lot of time to do it, so that's what I'm selling, / the ability to make something super customizable. You know, like, so, when you first start a website, there's no reason to like hire someone to do it. You can just build something. But you want to have a website. Like, people who find you random tangent, anytime someone finds you on social media, if they are interested enough that they could potentially at one point become a true fan, they are going to see if you have a website. Don't disappoint them, right? Yeah, even if you put up a website that says coming soon, you know what I mean? Like, at least they know that you're a person who's trying to do something that's worth following for the long run, and not somebody who made a social account who may never do anything outside that social account.
Nah, that's true. But my phone's gonna die.
Yep, absolutely. I just wanted to get that because that'll help you out for the website thing. And
no, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
No, I really do appreciate it. I'm going to definitely look into that. If I have any questions, I'll definitely message you.
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free.
All right. Dylan, it's been a pleasure. Greg, get some sleep. He just look up and like, will y'all stop so I can sleep? All right. Thank y'all.
Yeah, have a good one.
All right.
Sweet. Cool. So yeah. And by the way, I started recording before I got on as well. I can stop that now.